Hello everyone, some guy rank stuff here, and today this is going to be purely World of Warcraft, which is, if you've seen my one of my previous videos on video games, one of my previous tier lists, which was about either like great video games or franchises. I did speak a little bit about how I've played World of Warcraft since 2006, which is insane. And that also means that I've been playing, well, pretty consistently from those days. So I at least tried every expansion, but I haven't played all expansion. Like, I'm not too familiar with every, every different systems, which this tier list is about. So there might be something I'm not too familiar with, and something I definitely do remember a lot. So this is different things that have come with patches or like updates and expansions throughout the years. I'll try to rank them for what I think is the best ones, and maybe not so much. I realize now that I should have maybe changed these. Change these names. If I should have at least one rank for barely or never tested properly, or something to do with that's something to do with me not really experiencing this thing. Like, in recent years, I haven't been raiding a lot. I haven't been raiding in a serious way since Cataclysm. So it's been a while since I've been mostly doing single player content on, at least since around Cataclysm or Mists of Pandaria. So there's not everything that I'm too familiar with. So I'll probably put quite a few systems down there. But I'll try to rank like from, I guess, like super to great, okay, bad, or even poor, not sure. But it's kind of like that. So I'll start from the top. Apparently it's not entirely alphabetical order. It just seemed like it because it starts with A here. But we'll just go through the ranks. So artifact weapons is from Legion. It was heavily used, of course. I'm very familiar with this. I did play. To put something in perspective, I was playing an undead warlock almost entirely through World of Warcraft. I did play a Blood Elf Hunter during the Burning Crusade for a while, and a little bit of an Orc Shaman in Wrath of the Lich King, but I've most consistently played as an undead warlock. So, and I've always played as destruction as well. So I had the Scepter Sorgeras. That's the artifact I carried in Legion. I think it's a really cool lore thing that you're able to acquire like an artifact weapon. What was kind of disappointing. Well, of course, it makes sense, but just playing through the Legion expansion without ever having to look for a new weapon, like either you don't have to. Well, you can't go through a raid and think that like that staff is amazing, I should get that one. You just couldn't, because you always had your artifact. So I think it's really cool because the artifacts are full of lore. I mean, if paladins could carry the Ashbringer, that's amazing. Scepter Sargeras was something powerful. We even have the priest. I can't remember the name of it, but that kind of dagger that shadow priests had, I guess, which is carried over this lore and story through the void and all gods and stuff. I think artifact weapons was really cool. Powering it up and kind of customizing it, even changing the appearance of it was really cool. But what detracts it from being great, I think, is just, one of the best. It's just that, being, of course, you kind of become like a chosen one by this point. But you used to just be like an adventurer that roamed around the world doing your own thing, and you picked up whatever you found. But now you had this weapon that you carried everywhere. So kind of lost that interest, but it was still a really cool thing, and it only lasted for one expansion. So, and you can keep the appearances through transmog, which is really cool. So I think it's a really cool one, and we're past it, but it just disrupted the excitement of getting a new weapon like every other kind of piece of armor. Ashran isn't one that I've, you know, maybe I should have one more rank. Like, barely ever. Let me see here. Whoops. Something's wrong with the left clicker on my mouse, apparently. Barely tried, but like the idea. Because Ashran I thought was like a cool PvP zone that I would have liked to explore a lot more. I've heard some kind of bad things about it, but I think the idea was cool. Did try it a little bit, but not too much. But I do have an opinion that I like the idea at least. This was of course from Warlords of Draenor. But then we have Azerite armor, which is from Battle for Azeroth. And like, I guess it's a different kind of armor. I can't remember much else than the necklace, which was okay. I mean, I was kind of done with having this one equipment slot being like unswitchable throughout the expansion after the artifacts in Legion. Then they follow up with this neck, which you could upgrade. But I guess that's, you know, that was kind of a cool thing to use the neck instead of something really central like the weapon. Because that, you know, wow, you get a cool new neck. Never exciting to get a new neck, except for the stats. The new weapon looks cool at least, but you never saw the neck, so I like the necklace. And I think that was a good choice, but I was kind of done with upgrading the same piece of armor over and over again. So this was one of the weaker things to me. Badge vendors, I think, is a good thing. The whole, but the whole Lich King, I might be remember it wrong, but I thought back in Lich King there were like 5 different currencies when you really only needed 2. I mean, I think you acquired 2 different kind of badges from PvP or maybe in PvE, not entirely sure. But then you had to exchange those for other types of currencies just to buy some other piece of gear. And like the only way to obtain these 3 different other badges was to exchange the existing 2 that you could get, because the 3 others weren't obtainable in any other way than just exchanging a currency, which I just thought was stupid, to be honest. But the idea itself, like, it's been working great since then. Maybe even before. Not, I just can't remember if the Burning Crusade used some kind of badge system, but it's something I think works well. Benthic gear, that's actually something I'm not too familiar with. Maybe I'll look into that later. BFA mission, yeah, mission table wasn't too bad. I did like mission tables to some extent. I see there are different ones here, and then there are different ones that I like better than others, but I think the BFA, that was, you know, I did like the campaign. I think the campaign in BFA was kind of, it was interesting to me, and I thought the Horde versus Alliance was something I really tried to pay a lot of attention to, because I haven't been paying a lot of attention into the lore through every expansion as I played it. I've been looking more into it now later, after watching Bellular Gaming speak about the lore of World of Warcraft and stuff. It's gotten me interested in the later years. And I think it was around BFA that I started to really pay attention to the lore. So I thought, like, having the BFA mission table on the ship, like from the Horde side anyway, I think was a kind of cool thing. Brawler's Guild, I have played it quite a bit. I think it's a cool thing. That's like you play one-on-one with different well, maybe not always one-on-one, but at least you play and fight different kind of high-level elite mobs by yourself. Haven't played it in a long while, but I did enjoy it for quite a bit. Challenge mode I have tried a tiny bit, but it's not something like dungeons. I usually play just to experience and try to just get a feel of the dungeon instead of, you know, trying to master it. Like I easily get tired of a dungeon the more I go into the same dungeon. So trying over and over to, you know, fight a challenge isn't too interesting to me, but I think it's still a good mode at least. Chromie time is this like the single player mode that was in Legion? Or was that in, or is this just how you can go to like different expansions leveling up? Because if this is like you start a new character, you can go to start leveling in Outland if you want to, instead of going through Eastern Kingdoms or Kalimdor first and then to Outland and then to Northrend and then to the Cataclysm zones. Because they changed this after they reduced, or like this whole, what's it called again, like they changed the leveling system. It went back to level 60 from 120, I think, instead of trying to raise the level cap. I think this was a brilliant idea, and I think this is one of the best things when Blizzard have come this far with the expansions. I think this was an amazing way to do it, because now you can level from 1 to 60 within one kind of expansion instead of going through every expansion over and over and over again. You can just make a new character. You go to Northrend if you like to play there. You can go to Pandaria. You can go to the Broken Isles. And you can just level from 1 to 60 in those zones, almost at least. Maybe even can. I think that's a great way to play. Convicts was from Shadowlands, I think. It was a good thing, but nothing too special. I don't feel like it really mattered that much to me when I played. We have Corruptions. Barely tried, but I liked the idea. Didn't play. No, this is like the Corrupted Gear. Yeah, no, I'm not not sure about this one, honestly. I haven't played or used that too much. Covenants, you know, I like the idea that you had the class order hall in Legion. Did you have something in BFA? Something similar? Well, they had the Horde Alliance, of course. But, you know, being able to choose the Covenant for your class, you can play the same class as always, but just because you're that class doesn't mean you have to be doing this thing, or just because you're Horde, you have to be doing this thing. So, being able to choose the Covenant wasn't too bad. I was in Revendreth with the... I can't even remember the name of the Covenant, but yeah, I think that was a good thing, and I liked developing things there. But that was the only Covenant I really tried, I think. But I thought it was really cool. I haven't really ever had to use customer support, so I'm not sure if it works properly. Probably does, but I like the idea anyway. Essence powers is actually something I'm not too familiar with. I can't even remember. I'm not sure what that is. Garrisons was cool for a long while. Kind of lost its magic at some point. It kind of made every player stay in their garrison more than they went out for a long while, I feel like, anyway. But Garrisons was still cool and nothing too bad. I thought it was fun to do, at least the first time. I have played a little bit on an Alliance character, tried to do something of the Warlords of Draenor content there, so I did build a little, but wasn't too much into it. So I think it's an okay thing. Glyphs is something I actually miss. There were small things that could improve some things about your character. I don't remember that many different glyphs, but there are some that I really miss and wish they still had. One thing is, again, I'm a warlock, and I remember having this glyph that allowed my dreadsteed to run across water. That's something I really wish I could still do. So glyphs was a great thing, and I hate that they removed that kind of glyph system. I know they have something for PvP right now, but the ones that you could use everywhere, I do miss that really. I think there's something about Chaos Bolt and stuff that I also like, but just that tiny thing about allowing this one specific mount to run across water was really cool. Really cool. Hard mode, barely tried. Well, I haven't actually tried it, but I like the idea because this was like the precursor to Mythic, I guess. This was the kind of system that, or even Heroic maybe, because how was it? Maybe World of War had hard mode, which activated in different ways to make the bosses harder, but this was before either Heroic or Mythic was available for raids, which changed with, I think, with Icecrown Citadel. I never tried hard mode, but I heard great things about it, and I like the idea. And of course, this was something that was like a precursor to something that became a standard. But the cool thing was that you actually activated it in different ways depending on the boss, from what I understood. Horrific Visions was the thing that I kind of mixed with Corruptions. I barely tried going into a zone and seeing these horrific visions of Enzoth. It's too bad. I never tried Nyalotha, by the way. Never, like all the raids since Cataclysm, I've only done the LFR part of ever since. So I haven't gone into Nyalotha at all. Not even the Eternal Palace, if that was the name of the Nashatar raid with Queen Ashara. But I thought it was really intriguing with the whole Enzoth thing, and just seeing the zones being corrupted like with these horrific visions was really cool. So I think it's a good idea, but I haven't tried it a whole lot. Island Expeditions was actually not that bad. I wish I did play it a little bit more because it was kind of cool to just go to an island and try to collect this Azerite, even though the Azerite power was something I felt like wasn't needed just because we had the artifact power in the previous expansion. But I think it was a cool idea. I think it was a little bit fun myself. Item levels, I think, is a good thing. I mean, people were using this from an add-on before it became an in-game standard. But even though I didn't like it in the beginning, because when I didn't have the add-on myself, I was often excluded from pugs for raids and dungeons and stuff because I apparently didn't have a high enough item level, and I didn't even realize I didn't have a high enough item level. So actually restricting things in-game because of item levels, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I remember being like very opposed to this idea when it was just the add-on, because I thought, well, if I've done before, why do I need a higher item level? People wouldn't see why, because it was hard to prove. But that's when something else longer further down this list will appear something. Well, sorry, I'm just rambling on about different things here. I'll get to it, but I think item levels is a good thing. Legendaries, I guess. I actually didn't like. Well, the legendaries were good, but the way you got them was way too random. I had like 10 legendaries at the end of the expansion on my warlock alone, and I just didn't understand why I would just fight a random mob and hey, legendary, wow. There should be other ways to obtain those. They were good, of course. I didn't complain having a legendary, but they occurred way too often than they should. I think, at least. Legion mission table. So I can't, like, I remember the Warlords of Draenor mission table very well. The Legion and, well, Battle for Azeroth. I think they're maybe almost as good. But yeah, I think it's there in the B rank here. LFD and LFR are two very different things. They've really killed a lot of the social aspect of the game, which is too bad. But I have always appreciated the LFD because that allowed for, at least at some point, cross-realm grouping, which was really handy. Spamming the chat to try to find some people to go to any dungeon was tiring. I think LFD has been great. I don't like how people rarely ever speak to each other nowadays, because that was something that was really good, like the social aspect of it before LFD was great. But now that I don't have that much time to play World of Warcraft anymore, which is probably why I haven't played, like, raided for real since Cataclysm. And of course a bigger reason for that is the next thing on the list here. But it definitely allows everyone to easier go through dungeons and experience the dungeons and even raids, because I would have to commit myself much more, which I can't do, to do raids properly. But thanks to LFR as well, I can now go through the raids myself. I don't think it's as good as LFD. I thought LFD was much more necessary. LFRs are almost as good, but I remember, well, many people have blamed it for breaking or just destroying maybe the whole social aspect of World of Warcraft. But I also remember that this was introduced with one of the most disappointing raids ever, that being Dragon Soul in Cataclysm, which really was a disappointing raid, I agree. And, well, the very first raid to use this system was Dragon Soul. But at least now, being a busier guy, I can also experience raids through LFR, which I appreciate. M plus Cache, I did play a lot of Mythic, well, a lot of Mythic Plus in Legion, but I haven't played much since. I think, well, I know how it works, and I think it's a great thing. I do. Mage Tower, I think, was fun. It was really difficult, especially in Legion. I heard it came back, but I haven't tried it myself. But it was really, really difficult, and I definitely had to look up guides on how to defeat the different. Well, I think it's a little bit better than that. It was great. People love it. That's a good thing, of course. If people love it, I'm happy for them. So I think it's a good thing, and I really struggled myself, but I did succeed after a while still. So it was fun. It was fun. Mists of Pandaria farming. I remember this. I did that a lot, just mostly because of the achievements, though. But I think it still was a fun thing. Nothing too special, but good thing anyway. Mists of Pandaria legendary cloaks. I got mine long after the expansion, I think, if that was even possible. I definitely didn't do it while the expansion was active. But this is more like how you do legendaries, I think, rather than the legendaries. So I think that's a better one. Mythic Plus, well, it's kind of like Mythic Plus cache. I never understood how you say that word. That cache, not sure. Mythic Plus, well, I don't think the cache itself is better than Mythic Plus. They're both the same, so it goes up there. We have different looting systems here, and Need Before Greed, I think, is, well, of course, it allows for someone to ninja loot, but to a lesser extent these days, because now not everyone can just press need just because they want to. Now, if you have a certain class that can't use this specific item, you can't need it. So, and I think that's a great system, honestly. If you're just in a group with random people, it's kind of hard maybe sometimes to decide who gets it. So if you need it, you just press need. If you want it for money or disenchanting or something, just press greed. It's not a big deal. And these days you can always exchange the item afterwards. You can trade it for the same people who appeared in the dungeon or raid for a couple of hours, I think. So unless you of course use it. Netherlight Crucible. This I'm not familiar with, kind of like benthic gear. Maybe I have to look it up. New talent system. So if this is the talent system we don't have now, but the previous one, and I never liked this one, honestly. You just get a talent point every 10 to 15 levels. I thought that was boring. I really missed the old style. So the one we have now, that you get a new point every level, so to speak, and you get to work like slowly but surely towards something, and you, by every level you can choose to empower yourself in different ways. I think that's a lot more fun. Zoth Legendary Cloaks. I guess I like the idea, kind of like the mop one. I just can't remember if I got this one myself, so yeah. Old Town system, however, like I was just talking about, I found that was a great system. I also like, you can empower your spells, you can make things better, faster, you know, reduce casting time, you can increase your crit chance. You can even learn new spells through the old town system. You can with the new one as well. But I always liked working towards that end goal in your specialization, like getting the Chaos Bolt for myself. I think that's a great way to do it. Order halls, it's kind of like the Covenants, but you couldn't shoot. Well, you chose your class, of course, but once you've chosen the class, that's the kind of order hall you go to. The Covenants were offering a little bit more freedom to that. But I think Legion was a lot of fun as an expansion. This was like the first... Well, they had a garrison, of course, before this, but the order halls, I think, maybe was a little bit cooler. I'm just... Oh, maybe it's an A. Kind of like the Covenants. I think it's maybe slightly better than the Covenants, if this means anything. But yeah, it's a great system, I think. So Pathfinder, I guess, is the... let me just see if everything... Oh, not everything shows here on the screen. Let's see. So there are these legendary cloaks at the end here. I was just gonna try to... I think I have to zoom out on the website. There, maybe? Well, let's just... There we go. Pathfinder, I guess this is the achievement that allows you to fly instead of riding on mounts on ground level all the time throughout a new expansion. I think this is great. If I remember correctly, it was Warlords of Draenor that I introduced this, because it was supposed to be like only restricted to ground mounts throughout the expansion. I think that was the original idea, but they allowed flying after a while. I think it's because people were missing just really experiencing the world instead of just flying to everywhere you needed to. It was so easy to get around that you didn't get to see everything. So kind of restricting it, making you have to go around, ride around from place to place. it offered a lot more to really experience expansion. So restricting it to ground level at first, then allowing you to fly after a while, I think is a good idea, because you start to miss being able to fly everywhere. So I think that's actually a really, really good way of doing that. Personal loot is actually, it's kind of good, but it takes away the magic. I think they ended this. Now they have the group loot thing instead again. It was of course really easy, lesser arguing about stuff, but that was kind of boring as well. You went through a dungeon, you got the stuff. That's also a thing. You never had to interact with everyone because you got the loot yourself. You didn't have to argue with everyone, or anyone, I should say, or even just. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was good, but I like having group loot better, actually. PvP cache, it's kind of the same thing as M+. I think it's a good thing. PvP vendor, always liked having that. Yeah. PvP vendor upgrades, I think that's just as good. Reforging, I think I really like the idea. I never used it too much, or even rune forging, but I think it's a good thing to use. Scenarios, it was kind of short lasting, but it wasn't, well, you had to kind of enter this instance to go through them in Mists of Pandaria, but they have been using these kinds of things in quests in later expansions. Like, you go through different steps. It's more open world now, kind of, I guess, instead of going to an instance. I think it's a good thing anyway. But they stopped with the achievements after Mists of Pandaria anyway, so yeah. Shadowlands legendaries, I actually don't remember how they were. I remember they being better than the Legion ones, but I just don't remember how they were compared to Mists of Pandaria, or even where is it again? World of Draenor, I guess. Why can't I find? Didn't I have like World of Draenor, Legion? No, legendaries. Jeez, what am I doing? Anyway, we'll put it there. Shadowlands mission table, I didn't use this too much. I was kind of bored with mission tables at this point. Didn't really gain a whole lot, I think, but it might just be me. Let's see, Shards of Domination, never really, well, I'm not sure. Maybe not tested properly. Tertiary stats, never tested properly. The Great Vault, I think, this is something I haven't played too much, but I have in recent times in Dragonflight. I think it's a good thing. It's kind of like M+, but you don't have to do something on this kind of level. You can just go through LFR, take a few bosses, and you get an extra reward. I think it's a cool thing. So I think there are a lot of misspellings here, especially here, because I think the H is supposed to be after the G here, Torghast. This was one of the most hyped things about Shadowlands, I remember, before the expansion release, and it delivered in some ways, but maybe not all. It's kind of like the Mage Tower, I think. I did do a lot of Torghast, but I haven't done everything. But I did like it. It was fun. Never tried it in groups though. I always talked about trying it out with a friend of mine, but haven't been able to do it yet. So, but I think it was a fun thing to do. Threads of Fate. Well, maybe I have to just look it up afterwards. Tier sets. Absolutely love tier sets. Number one, I think. Oops. Move on from me. Tier sets I've loved ever since the beginning. This was like the thing to get if you were able to. Dungeon sets I really miss. Tier sets from the old days. I'm definitely going to do a ranking of tier sets here later. I've been thinking about it, trying to figure out a way to do all the classes, all the different tiers, well, at least most of them. Like, it's been harder to follow or pay attention to the later armor sets because there are so many now, and it's hard to make them really stand out. But man, at least up to Wrath of the Lich King, and even some after that in Cataclysm, even as Wisdom Pandaria, there were some really good ones there as well. But like tier 2, tier 5, like in general across all the classes, they are so good, so cool, and I absolutely just love tier sets. They're great. I miss like really cool, unique, standout tier sets nowadays. Time walking. So I just wasn't expected to see this here. I was really excited now because I just love it, absolutely love it. And I will do a ranking of tier sets later. I absolutely will. Time walking is, I think that's a really cool thing. Not just for the rewards, even though they're really good as well, but just being able to go back and do a dungeon from an expansion you love, or just really want to experience over again. They're of course not the same, but just they scale it for everyone, and you can just go back, have fun in a dungeon you used to do or used to love to do back in the day. I think that's a great thing. It's easy to do as well, having just a week where it's focused on this expansion, and next time it's focused on this expansion. I think it's great. Titan forging is nothing that I look at as very different from rune or reforging. Maybe I'm wrong, but transmog, I think this is so weird because when this was announced, I thought of course, you were able to keep the appearance of something, and you didn't need the bank space. But I thought this meant that you would actually like you do with heirlooms nowadays. You have this catalog with heirlooms, and you can just create the actual gear from that catalog and wear it. I kind of hoped that this would be the same, because I like to save. I actually have a ton of bank space filled up with the actual armor sets I used to have back in the day. If I had, like, I had a couple of tier 4 pieces when I was leveling up in Burning Crusade. Well, not leveling up, I was of course 70, and I got them from a couple of raids, but I had those, and I've actually been saving those. I've been saving every, at least tier gear. That's something that'll tell you I love tier sets. So I've been saving those in my bank because I want to keep them. I want to keep the actual gear instead of just having the appearance, because it has, some of them have the same gems that I installed, like put in the sockets back in the day, or enchantments even. I want to save those because I think it's really cool to have. So I thought this meant kind of extra bag space for the actual item, not just the appearance, not so that you could just copy the appearance. So it wasn't as good as I really hoped it would be, but it's still pretty freaking cool. It's definitely an A, if not an S. Of course, this takes away from the newer gear, but it's cool to just customize a little bit. And I do really enjoy Trial of Style. I think that's a really fun event. This should be here. I hope it's here somewhere. Warfronts. Really cool idea. Barely tried. Like the idea, but I did kind of experience it enough, I think, to put it here. It's kind of like the island expeditions. Kind of fun, but I wish I had tried it a little bit more though, because I think it was cool, but I just felt like it could have been better as well. Warlords of Draenor legendary rings. I guess that's yeah, I think I'll just put it here together with Shadowlands. Can't really remember a whole lot about it. So Warlords of Draenor mission table is the one I used the most. It's definitely not in the top because while it was really cool that you could get actually raiding gear from missions, it made it too easy to get these raiding gear. Definitely. So it detracts from it. I think it made things too easy, and I at that point at least, I didn't like it being too easy. I don't mind things being a little bit too easy now because I've gotten used to it, and I kind of need that because I can't go the difficult route to get things. But back in the day, I think it was a bit too easy. World quests, I think, is a fantastic idea. Loved it. Well, I love the the bonus objectives. I think that was in Warlords Draenor. That kind of was the precursor to the world quests. I thought that was really great. I could go out for a couple of quests, and hey, in this zone that I'm questing right now, I can get an even bigger reward just by killing 15 of these monsters that I'm killing anyway. So I thought that was great. And the world quests in Legion, especially, I did so many of them all the time. I thought it was really fun to just make reputation with different factions to get rewards. I loved world quests. It's better than daily quests. It was fun when I think it was introduced in the Sunwell patch of Burning Crusade. I think that was the first time at least they made a big deal out of it. I've been doing a lot of it. Remember being in the whole Trial of the Crusader thing in Lich King. Did a lot of daily quests there. But I think I like world quests better. It's not always the same thing you have to do over and over again, but daily quests was kind of the same thing over and over again every day. And that becomes boring at some point. So yeah. Flexibe rating. That's a good thing, I think. Not needing to be like a full group just to do this boss, but since a couple people left, you can still do this boss and the boss scales to the group. I think that's a good way, at least together with LFR. That's a good thing, I think. Paragon reps, I think that was kind of cool. I guess this is the well, at least the maybe not Claxis specific, but at least these wasp thingies from Mists of Pandaria in the Dread Wastes. Reputation things I think is always cool. So why exactly that one? I'm not sure, but I think it was cool. Professions I think is great. It hasn't always been a huge thing. It's a huge thing now in Dragonflight. It's been for the first time in a long while. It's been really reworked, which is great. But just always having the profession since the very beginning, I think has been a really cool thing. Weapon skills, something that disappeared a long time ago. Of course, for a warlock, that's not. Well, you had the wand. That's something you had to train sometimes. But like being an RPG, this was an RPG element that was really appreciated. But as time moved on, you haven't really needed this thing. So it's okay that they removed it, but I think it was a cool thing anyway. Just I don't think people today would have the patience to level up the weapons. If you're a warrior and you had maybe a one-hand sword in the beginning, you use that a lot. Or maybe a two-hand axe. You had a two-hand axe in the beginning, had max level for that when you were level 11. And then you got like a two-handed sword, use that instead. And at level 40, you finally got a two-hand axe again, but you realized you have to level up the skill because you haven't done that since level 11. It's kind of annoying, so it was. But I think it was, as an RPG system, I think that was a really cool thing. Pet battles, I really adore pet battles. I definitely think it's a cool thing, fun thing. I still do this a lot. So I think that's a great thing. Honestly. Valor, Justice, Point vendor. So this is kind of like the badge vendor, I think. Yeah, well, maybe it goes into the top. Maybe these both should be in the top. I think so. Creation Catalyst. Oh, this is from Dragonflight, isn't it? I think I've been doing this lately. The Catalyst thing. It's okay. Maybe an A for that. Cipher of the First Ones. I don't remember this thing. 25, okay, we have the 10, 25, 40-man rating. So what's the difference really? Well, they cut out the 40-man rating after Classic. And it's weird to think that 40-man rating was the first thing. Like, at least, yeah, I think... What was the very first raid? Was that Molten Core? That was a 40-man raid. Well, they had maybe Upper Blackrock Spire, which was at least up to 10-man. Never did that myself though. The standard became 10 and 25 in Burning Crusade, and they stopped at 40-man altogether. I think 40-man is really cool, but I just find it so weird that like as the game grew larger, they reduced the number of men you needed. But I think at least 25 and 10-man raiding, they both go in the top. And I do kind of miss having raids restricted to a certain number. Like, Burning Crusade was my best raiding experience. You know, with Karazhan being the first raid, and you had to be 10 people there, but then if you wanted to do Gruul's Lair or Magtheridon's Lair, you had to be 25. I think that was a really cool thing. You couldn't do Magtheridon with 10 and then Karazhan with 25. I like that they had restricted raid numbers. I kind of miss those days that had those raids with restricted numbers instead of offering both options. But anyway, they're both good, of course. Yeah, there's the Dragonfly talent trees. So we're going back to this, and I really enjoy having this kind of talent tree. Did I place? Yeah, old talent system right there, and then I had the new talent system down. Yeah, I feel that feels right to me. Dragon riding, I really didn't expect much from it, but it's a lot more fun than I thought. And whenever I go to the older zones now and use a regular flying mount, it just feels so much more boring. It's so weird not to press 2 to jump up and, you know, elevate. It's just, I don't know. Dragon riding, I think it's fun. It's a lot better than I thought it would be. I just didn't have any expectations for it at all. Heirlooms. That's a good thing. And this uses the system that I hoped the transmog system would use the catalog there, but still, I barely ever used heirlooms, but I think it's a great thing. You buy things to help your characters level easier and faster. I think it's when you level, it's a little bit boring to use the same gear as you level up, because I think that detracts from the experience. But of course, it's your choice. You don't have to use heirlooms. It's there if you want to level fast. So I think it's a great thing. Just a great thing. 20-man rating, mythic rating. I like the idea. I haven't done this too much, so I have to. Yeah, arena is actually a really cool thing. I'll put up battlegrounds as well. I haven't really done a whole lot PvP in later years, but I absolutely love doing arena. It was a lot of fun. Difficult, but a lot of fun. And battlegrounds, I've done quite a lot of battlegrounds back in the day. I think I was first sergeant on my warlock before those ranks disappeared, which isn't too bad, I think, especially for a man who hadn't. I mean, I think I reached level 60 a month or two before Burning Crusade released, so I was kind of like late to the game. So and those ranks, but I did a lot of PvP as I leveled up. I had a lot of fun, especially on level 36 and 38. I think I did a lot of PvP back then. Those are great. I haven't done them in a long time, especially arena, but I think they're huge and great additions to this game. Artifact power, it's, well, it's kind of, yeah, well, it belongs with the artifact weapons. I did like collecting artifact power or just gaining power throughout the expansion because it had something to do with my artifact. But after Legion, I was kind of done with the whole thing, which is why, the Azerite armor is down here, and Azerite collecting also kind of goes down there. Max's new haircut, well, sure, that's amazing. Not sure who he is, if he is the guy who made this or a friend of him, not sure. Well, yeah. With the training, I think this was boring. I did that quite a bit. I mean, I played a lot in Legion. I thought it was really a great expansion, but that part was kind of, I think Master Looter is a good thing, just like Need and Greed. If you're in a guild and you have a guild master or raid master or leader, whatever you call it, deciding and just making sure that no one tries to cheat their way to a new gear. I think Master Looter is a great option for guilds especially. And here got achievements. When I talked about, I absolutely love achievements in general in video games. I love trying to achieve different goals and stuff like that. So when achievements was introduced, I think back in the Wrath of the Lich King, I started focusing a lot on it, and I've been doing that since, like with every expansion. I often try to go back to different expansion content and getting achievements, and I think it's fun when you're on a higher level. You can just go back to, I could go back to Legion now and try to do raid achievements and stuff. I think it's a lot of fun. And when talking about the item level earlier, I couldn't prove that I had done like a raid before, even though I had low item level, but at least I could have the achievement to show for it at some point at least. So achievements was a good thing for that as well. Cross faction is, well, it's kind of good, kind of bad. I haven't really tried it, but I'm not sure if I even like the idea of it. I mean, what's there to try? I mean, I can play with my friends who play Alliance, but yeah, I think it's a B thing. It's kind of, how should I say? It's kind of, it's kind of cool that the video game allows that at some point. It's been a lot of Horde versus Alliance and stuff, and it makes sense that you can't cooperate, but at some point maybe you can. Maybe at some point you can't anymore, not sure. But I find it a little bit weird still, to be honest. But anyway, there's also these 4 things I can't really remember what are, or even if I know what they are. I'll just have to look it up real quick. Benthic gear, I'm not sure what that is actually. Conquest gear, what? Okay, Gearing system, okay. Yeah, this part is boring, I really apologize. This system allows players to, let's see, obtain bind on account. Oh, is that it? If that's bind on account gear, I think that's really cool actually. If that's gear that's bound on account, I think that's a really good thing. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But the Netherite Crucible, that's actually not something Netherite Crucible. Crucible consists of a method to increase the attack, the power of the relics attached to the artifact weapon. Oh, okay. This is a Legion thing. Well, maybe I did this. I just never tested properly, I think. Unfortunately. Well, Threads of Fate. So that's Shadowlands. Yeah. Oh, of course. Shadowland Legendaries. That's actually really cool. I have to move it up here. I just remember that I used to make my own, of course, legendaries with the use of the rune. No, jeez, what was his name again? The imprisoned one in Torghast, the rune carver. The rune carver, I think. I really enjoyed being able to obtain like materials and stuff to create a legendary. That's actually a really cool way to do it. Of course, there are some things that I just don't remember, or yeah, I think these all go to no, barely or never tested properly. I haven't tested him properly either, so I guess there you go. Oh, actually, this all did make it nicely into the frame in the end. In the end, apparently, because I don't think you could see. Could you see this? No, I don't think so. Anyway, so there you go. The best things in World of Warcraft, I think, are the tier sets, chromie time, if that really is where you go to a previous expansion to level up. It's a great thing. Achievements, really love that. Looking for, well, the dungeons counterpart, I think that's a good thing. Need Before Greed, great. Old Town system was great. Badge vendors, PvP, vendor upgrades and vendors, great. Valor and Justice points as well. Pathfinder, I think it's great. World quests, love it. Professions has been great all the way. 10 of 25 man raiding. Dragonfly talent trees, love it. Arena battlegrounds, great. And we also have Master Looter, which I think is a really, really good thing. So these, I'm at least out of this system tier list, tier ranking, I think this is the best thing, the best things that World of Warcraft has had to offer throughout the years. So thank you for watching. I guess I'll be back soon enough, I hope, with a new video at some point, because I'm just some guy who ranks stuff, so that's what I'll be doing. See you next time then.